Across Africa, with the world's eyes on the Middle East and Ukraine, governments have been falling one by one. And as the political order shifts, Russia is taking advantage. Vladimir Putin has already forged strong ties with a new generation of coup leaders.
I think this is an important time to be focusing on what's happening in these countries. We're looking at geopolitical shifts and power shifts that could have quite significant long-term impact.
2.5 years, 7 military coups. It's the most instability Africa has seen since the wave of independence that swept the continent in the 1960s.
It does feel like something has changed. It's not going to return to the way it was.
And groups such as Wagner's private military company were quick to move in.
When France and other Western countries get in conflict with these African countries, it ends up often creating a void. And that is the opportunity that the Russians then come and exploit.
Academic Isabella Curry has spent years researching Wagner's activities in Africa. Last year, there were questions about the group's future after its founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was killed just months after leading a failed mutiny in Russia. But Wagner, Curry says, didn't go away.
They were still very active in Africa. I think the process that we have seen across African states really continued as business as usual.
These pictures from a Russian social media site show the first troops dispatched last month as part of the Kremlin's newly formed Africa Corps, part of Russia's Ministry of Defense.
What we're looking at this point is just a continuation of Wagner's presence in the form of the Africa Corps. It will obviously be more publicly recognised by the Putin regime, whereas Wagner was not previously.
All but one of the countries where civilian governments were toppled are former French colonies.
France, unlike the UK and Portugal and Belgium, has not gotten the memo to change and adjust its policies towards African countries, its former colonies. And I think the frustration has built over years and decades, and it's just coming home to roost.
The falling dominoes have earned the Sahel region, south of the Sahara Desert, the nickname the coup belt, with leaders overthrown in countries such as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Those countries have announced they're leaving the ECOWAS economic and political bloc in West Africa.
These are countries that have been facing insurgencies. And on top of these insurgencies, they have the challenges of governance. Then you really have a violent cocktail ready to explode.
And when that explosion comes, anger is often directed at the former colonial power.
There's a lot of built-up resentment towards the French. In many ways, it's very easy for any sort of person who's trying to take control to point a finger at the French and say, why are they still here?
France va de nouveau reconquérir l'Afrique. Nous sommes les démons de Macron.
Much of the anti-French sentiment has been fueled on social media by videos like this. Zombie French soldiers mowed down by Mali's military junta with help from mercenaries from Russia's Wagner group. Another video, first shared on Russian social media, depicts France as a giant rat. What better way to exterminate it than a call to Wagner? Isabella Curry says behind the recent instability in Africa's coup belt, it's not hard to see Moscow at work.
There are fingerprints and footprints right across that region, and they have been now for a really long time. We first saw the Wagner Group pop up in 2017, and they've had a very active presence since then.
It's also not hard to see, she says, what's in it for Russia.
The areas that these groups are operating in are very resource rich. There's a lot of mining, natural resource and gas deposits, oil deposits, diamonds, gold, you name it, that there's access to in those countries.
The Kremlin is moving into the void left behind as France's influence recedes. And Mavemba Pezo Desolele says that's no surprise after Western countries backed corrupt regimes for decades.
It's a wake-up call for Western countries to look also in the mirror, to sit at the drawing table and say, what are we doing? Why are we here? Why are we failing? Because there is shared responsibility here.
And more dominoes may fall. Yinka Adegoke believes countries in the Congo Basin are most at risk. Equatorial Guinea's president has ruled for 44 years. Congo Brazzaville's leader has been in power for 41 years. And Cameroon's Paul Biya has been president for 42 years, and at age 90 is the world's oldest head of state.
People look at the situation and go, I think this is a good time for us to make a move because we'll get support if we do this.
Aging leaders and corrupt, unpopular regimes. The ingredients are there for more young military leaders to take their shot at power.